You are working 2 jobs. You are cutting back on the groceries. You are praying until your knees are sore, and you are tithing down to the very last cent in your wallet. But every single time you open that banking app, the numbers haven't moved. In fact, they might be moving backward. And in the quiet of the night, when the house is still, you've started to ask the question that feels like a sin to even think. God, why is it so easy for the world to get rich while I am struggling just to survive? Why does it feel like I have to choose between my bank account and my Bible? Why does it feel like financial freedom is a mountain I'm not allowed to climb? Sister, I need you to lean in and listen to me with your whole heart right now. Your struggle is not a sign that God wants you broke. Your struggle is not a sign that you lack faith or that you aren't spiritual enough to handle a blessing. Your struggle is the result of a formula. You see, most of us have been taught a worldly formula for money that relies on greed, or we've been taught a religious formula that relies on poverty. But there is a third way. There is a middle path that the world doesn't want you to find, and the enemy wants to keep hidden from you. It is the Proverbs 31 formula. For years, we have looked at the Proverbs 31 woman as a Pinterest board of a perfect housewife who never sleeps. We've turned her into a burden instead of a blueprint. But when you look at the original Hebrew and the actual economics of her life, you realize she wasn't just a wife. She was a powerhouse. She was a scale-up expert. She was a woman who knew how to turn a single seed into a vineyard, a piece of fabric into a global trade business, and a prayer into a legacy. She didn't lose her faith to find her fortune. Her fortune was a direct result of her faith in action. If you are tired of the middle-class trap, if you are tired of living paycheck to paycheck while feeling like you're doing everything right spiritually, then today is the day your perspective shifts. We are going to break down the first phase of the Proverbs 31. The one formula. This is about scaling your finances without losing your soul. This is about building wealth that actually lasts because it is built on a foundation that cannot be shaken. Before we dive into the first pillar of this formula, I want you to do something that signals to your mind and to the heavens that you are ready for a change. I want you to stop right now and type one word in the comments: formula. Not because it's a magic word, but because you are deciding right now that you are done with the chaos and you are ready for the strategy God has already provided. Type formula, and let's begin. The first part of the Proverbs 31 formula is the law of internal authority. Look at the very first thing recorded about her heart toward her work. She selects wool and flax and works with willing hands. In our modern world, we think that wealth starts with the right stock tip or the right side hustle. We think it's external, but the formula starts with the willing hand. In the original text, this doesn't just mean she wasn't lazy. It means she took absolute ownership of her capacity. Most people are waiting for a boss to give them a raise or the government to change a tax law. They are operating from a place of external dependency. But the Proverbs 31 woman operated from internal authority. She didn't wait for someone to give her a job. She selected her materials. She was the architect of her own day. Scaling your finances starts the moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim of the economy and start seeing yourself as a steward of the king's resources. If you want to scale, you have to stop asking, "Who is going to let me?" and start asking, "What has God put in my hands?" You have been praying for a forest, but God has already given you a bag of seeds. The problem is, you're looking at the seeds and saying, "This isn't enough to build a house." No, it's not. But it's enough to start the formula. She took the wool. She took the flax. She didn't wait for the finished garment to appear. She started with the raw material. What is your raw material? Is it a skill you've neglected? Is it an hour of time you're wasting on a screen? Is it a small amount of savings you're afraid to touch? The formula cannot begin until you take authority over the small thing you currently hold. This leads us directly into the second pillar, the calculation of value. Proverbs 31 says, "She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings she plants a vineyard." Notice the order of operations here. She considers. She calculates. She doesn't move on an impulse. She doesn't buy the field because everyone else is buying fields. She buys it because she has studied the soil. In our culture of instant gratification, we are losing our faith because we are losing our finances to get-rich-quick schemes. We see a crypto trend or a real estate flip, and we jump in with our emotions, and when it fails, we cry out to God, "Why didn't you bless this?" But God blessed the Proverbs 31 woman because she used the mind he gave her to calculate the risk. Scaling is not about jumping at every opportunity. It's about having the discipline to say no to 99 good things so you can say yes to the one God thing. Scale requires margin. You cannot plant a vineyard if you spent all your earnings on the field. Look at the text again. From her earnings, she plants. She didn't use her seed money for her lifestyle. She didn't take the profit from the first deal and go buy a more expensive chariot. She reinvested. This is the part where most people lose their way. As soon as God starts to bless the work of their hands, they increase their standard of living instead of increasing their standard of giving and investing. The Proverbs 31 formula scales because it prioritizes the future harvest over present comfort. If you want to scale your finances without losing your faith, you have to stop using money to prove your worth to people who don't care about you. You have to stop trying to look wealthy and start actually building wealth. The Proverbs 31 woman was clothed in fine linen and purple. Yes, but only after she had built the vineyard. She didn't buy the purple cloth on credit while the field was still fallow. She waited for the harvest to fund the luxury. This brings us to the third pillar, the multi-stream mandate. We have been lied to by a tradition that says a godly person should just focus on one humble task. But look at this woman's portfolio. She is a merchant. She is a real estate investor. She is an agriculturalist. She is a manufacturer. She has multiple streams of income flowing into her household at all times. Why is this important for your faith? Because when you have only one stream of income, that stream becomes your God. If your entire life depends on one paycheck, you will find yourself compromising your values just to keep that check coming. You'll stay silent when you should speak. But when you have the Proverbs 31 formula working, when you have the field and the vineyard and the merchantships, no single stream has the power to control you. Scaling your finances is actually a spiritual defense strategy. It is about creating a situation where you can say no to the world and yes to God without wondering how you're going to pay for the lights. The Proverbs 31 woman didn't have side hustles. She had a kingdom enterprise. She saw every venture as a way to extend her reach. Look at habit number 4 in her life. She perceives that her merchandise is profitable and her lamp does not go out at night. This isn't just about hard work. It's about awareness. She perceived. She was watching the markets. Scaling your finances requires you to stop looking inward at your own needs and start looking outward at the world's problems. Money is simply a reward for solving a problem for someone else. But here is the danger. Most people scale their work and their lamp stays on at night, but they forget why they are working. They get addicted to the numbers. They start to think that they are the source of the success. The reason the Proverbs 31 woman could stay awake at night and keep her lamp burning without losing her peace is because her lamp was fueled by something other than greed. It was fueled by purpose. She knew that her merchandise was profitable, not just for her, but for the poor she was about to help and the household she was about to provide for. Her scale was linked to her service. If you want to scale without losing your faith, your why has to be bigger than your what. If your why is just a bigger house, you will burn out. But if your why is to be a conduit for the kingdom, God will give you the strength to keep the lamp burning. We are just scratching the surface of this formula. We haven't even talked about how she handles the snow or how she manages her time without losing her mind. But before we move to the next phase, I want you to look at your current life. Are you operating like an owner or like a slave? Are you calculating your moves or are you reacting to your bills? The transition from a middle-class trap to a kingdom blueprint doesn't happen by accident. It happens by intention. It happens when you decide that you are no longer going to let the world define your potential. It happens when you realize that being financially blessed is not a luxury for the few, but a responsibility for the many. I want you to prepare your heart for what's coming next. We've talked about authority, calculation, and multi-streams. But the next part of the formula is what separates the wealthy from the blessed. It's the part that ensures that as your bank account grows, your relationship with God grows even faster. If you are ready to see the rest of the blueprint and how she laughed at the future while everyone else was afraid, then we are ready to continue. The fourth pillar of the Proverbs 31 formula is the law of seasonal preparedness. Scripture says something profound about this woman that most people gloss over. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. And then it adds, she can laugh at the days to come. Think about that for a second. When was the last time you laughed at your future? When was the last time you looked at the rising inflation, the unstable job market, or the global economy and actually laughed? Most of us aren't laughing. We're scrolling through news feeds with a knot in our stomachs. We are one medical bill or one car repair away from a total collapse. We are living in a state of constant, low-grade panic. But the Proverbs 31 woman wasn't laughing because she was lucky. She was laughing because she was prepared. She didn't wait for the snow to start falling before she looked for the wool. She built her scarlet defense while the sun was still shining. In the financial world, we call this an emergency fund or a margin, but in the kingdom, we call this stewardship of the seasons. If you want to scale your finances without losing your faith, you have to stop living as if the summer will last forever. Every economy has seasons, every life has winters. Scaling isn't just about how much you make when things are good, it's about how much you keep and protect so you can stay standing when things are bad. If you are spending every dollar the moment it hits your account, you are not scaling. You are just increasing the speed of your treadmill. You are building a house of cards. The Proverbs 31 formula requires you to build a fortress of scarlet. This leads us to the fifth pillar, the generosity engine. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. Notice the timing here. In the structure of the chapter, her generosity isn't something she does only after she's made it. It is woven into the very fabric of her business operations. This is the secret to scaling without losing your soul. Most people think of giving as a subtraction. If I have $100 and I give away 10, I have 90 left. That's worldly math. But kingdom math says that giving is an expansion. Giving is the vent that keeps the engine of wealth from overheating with greed. When you open your hand to the poor, you are telling God, I am a conduit, not a cul-de-sac. If you keep your hand clenched tight around your money, God cannot put anything more into it. But if you keep your hand open, wealth can flow through you. And as long as it is flowing through you to help others, God has a vested interest in increasing the flow. The Proverbs 31 woman wasn't just scaling for her own comfort. She was scaling so she could be the primary support system for the vulnerable in her community. When your financial goals are tied to the needs of others, you tap into a level of motivation and divine backing that a selfish person can never access. The sixth pillar is the stewardship of time and household. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Scaling a business or a career often comes at a high price. We see people who reach the top of the mountain only to find their families are gone, their health is broken, and their children don't know them. They gained the world but lost their home. The Proverbs 31 formula rejects this trade-off. She didn't scale her business by abandoning her household. She scaled her household by being a master of affairs. This word in the original language implies oversight and strategic management. She wasn't doing every single task herself. She was managing a system. She had servants, she had a team, and she had a plan. To scale your finances without losing your faith, you have to stop trying to be a do-it-all martyr and start being a system-building steward. You have to value your time enough to invest it where it produces the most fruit. If you are spending 5 hours a day on tasks that don't move the needle for your family or your future, you are eating the bread of idleness. Idleness isn't just sitting on the couch. Idleness is busy work that leads nowhere. The Proverbs 31 woman was efficient so she could be present. She scaled her income so she could buy back her time. This brings us to the final and most important pillar, the one that holds the entire formula together, the priority of the heart. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. This is the fear of the Lord safety net. You can have the field, the vineyard, the merchant ships, the scarlet clothing, and the profitable merchandise. But if you do not have the fear of the Lord, you have nothing but a pile of stuff that will burn. The fear of the Lord is the anchor that keeps your success from becoming your identity. Scaling your finances is dangerous if your heart isn't anchored. Wealth is a magnifying glass. It will make you more of whatever you already are. If you are greedy with a little, you will be a monster with a lot. If you are anxious with a little, you will be terrified with a lot. But if you fear the Lord, if you have a deep, reverent awe for God that outweighs your love for money, then wealth becomes a tool in your hand instead of a chain around your neck. The Proverbs 31 woman wasn't praised because she was rich. She was praised because she was rich in a way that pointed people back to God. Her husband was respected at the city gates because of her. Her children rose up and called her blessed because of her. Her life was a testimony that you can be a powerhouse in the marketplace and a pillar in the kingdom. So how do you apply this formula starting today? You don't try to change everything at once. You pick one pillar. Maybe today you need to take back your internal authority and stop waiting for a miracle and start working with willing hands. Maybe today you need to start your calculation of value and finally look at your bank statements with honesty and discipline. Maybe you need to open your generosity engine, even if you only have a widow's mite to give. The Proverbs 31 formula is not a fairy tale for a woman who lived 3,000 years ago. It is a prophecy of what your life can look like when you stop following the world's broken rules for money and start following God's ancient blueprint. You were not called to live small. You were not called to be trapped in the middle class, struggling to survive while the world's problems go unsolved. You were called to be a steward, a builder, and a blessing. If this message hit your heart, I want you to do one last thing. Look at the pillars we discussed: authority, calculation, multi-streams, preparedness, generosity, stewardship, and the fear of the Lord. Pick the one that you know, deep in your spirit, is the missing piece for your scale-up. Drop the number of that pillar in the comments. Let the comments be a place of accountability. When you type that number, you are making a commitment to God and yourself that you are moving from a state of financial survival to a state of kingdom scaling. And if you want more deep dives into the Word that give you the blade you need to cut through the lies of this culture, make sure you are subscribed to Bible Blade. We aren't here to give you fluff. We aren't here to make you feel comfortable in your struggle. We are here to hand you the blueprint so you can go and build the life God has already written for you. The snow is coming, but you don't have to be afraid. You have the formula, you have the Father. Now, go and get the field. I'll see you in the next one.